Hello everyone, Happy New Year. Welcome to another One Piece review. This time we'll be covering Manga chapter 1103. And it looks like sooner rather than later, Oda is starting to make that journey towards Elbaf. The long-awaited journey, I should add. This is a very impactful chapter to open up the new year. And speaking of which, we got the Straw Hats to join in with the festivities of celebrating the new year. And we got a dragon-themed colour spread with Momonosuke, so they could have some type deeper meaning. I'll get to that in a minute. But we got all 10 Straw Hats. So we see Momonosuke and Yamato's also alongside the Straw Hats. Now, part of me thinks this could be Oda just giving a nod to the Wano anime, since that just recently ended and we're literally about to enter a new arc. So we're literally entering the Egghead Island arc, so it could be a reference to that, or it could be Oda hinting at something, at the possibility of the return of Momonosuke and Yamato into the story to be featured alongside the Straw Hats for some particular role heading into the final arc. We are in the final saga, but I do find it interesting that it's a dragon themed colour spread involving the Straw Hats, but yet Yamato and Momonosuke are there. And if it was a throwback to Wano, then surely some of the scabbards, at least Kinemon, should be in there, don't you think? So two of the most popular characters to come out of Wano are Yamato and Momonosuke, possibly. Also, I find another meaning with this colour spread, and if you look at what Zoro and Luffy are both wearing now, I like Frankie's hair because it's actually resembling a dragon, so that's actually pretty cool. Robin and Nami look awesome as always in the colour spread. You got Jinbei riding on Momonosuke, and Yamato right above Luffy, but both Luffy and Zoro are representing the text of dragon on their shirts. Zoro obviously alongside Usopp. You got Zoro clearly having dragon written on his shirt. Luffy has dragon written on his shirt, but it's in Japanese kanji. You just have to look really close. I believe that's in Japanese kanji, so yeah. So I don't know if I could, again, it could be just like referencing Momonosuke, or possibly Monkey D. Dragon, since he was in this chapter as well. We end off the flashback with the flashback of Bonney and Vegapunk, and I thought this was kind of interesting, and it's very important that Oda included this, that Bonney forgave Vegapunk for everything that went down because she realized after seeing all of Kuma's memories, it wasn't his fault. He still feels responsible for what happened, so that's going to go a long way. So I'd still like to have gotten some exposition on how Bonney got that sword. If that was given to her by Vegapunk, I think that would be kind of a neat little detail to add. But either way, it's not that important unless that sword has some type of late side effect and it actually factors into the downfall of Sam. Because again, I said this when the weapon was introduced. There's no reason to highlight that Bonney had that weapon unless it was going to be absolutely irrelevant. Bonney reverts to the size of a 10-year-old because obviously she receives the present that she was supposed to get on her 10th birthday. I find it very interesting that the necklace resembles a sun, which is synonymous with Nika. Number two, Vegapunk says it was meant to be a protective charm. So the fact that Oda included that into that, I don't know if that's going to be just like just a throwaway comment by Vegapunk. But then again, Vegapunk did say, if only I'd given you a certain item when I did, then maybe things would have turned out differently. So we don't really know what that meant. Then Vegapunk goes on to say, oh, what a bizarre fate that you and Straw Hat would end up on the same island together. Fate is such a strange thing. So it's just more teasing the possibility of Bonney and Luffy allying post Egghead Island. Now, at the core, what this chapter does, like, it brings Saturn to be the focus of Bonney's hatred. Like before, it was Vegapunk because she didn't know. This goes back to what I said, and later on in the chapter, Saturn even admits like he's the root of a lot of problems that Kuma had to deal with. We go back to present time where Saturn has hold of Bonney. She can't break free. Frankie and Vegapunk can't move because of Saturn's ability. Luffy is still maxed out from using Gear 5th. It's interesting to know, not once but twice, Oda showcases Kizaru on the ground, and in one instance he's actually thinking about Sentomaru and Bonney. So obviously there's danger for Bonney. Sentomaru has been captured, and then in another panel we literally see Dragon and Ivankov talking about Kuma and him going off. And so Dragon says if Kuma started going after the instinct fragment, where do you think he would go either? So when I initially thought about that, then Ivankov responds like, if it were me, I'd certainly go to Marajoa, which we know he did. Now, a lot of us question why Kuma actually would return to Marajoa, and it's not really specified why yet. Like, did he do it on reaction impulse because obviously him been made a slave of the celestial dragons? So a lot of people seem to think there's the Phantom Room that was mentioned during the Reverie flashback. In fact, it's ironic because Bonney and Sabo were there when that was first brought up, and a lot of people seem to think that Phantom Room is a way to actually get to Egghead Island. If that were the case, then Saturn would not need to board a ship. If that's the case, it could be possible, but why would Saturn need to board a vessel, a ship, if he was able to find a way to get to Egghead Island from Marajoa? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So it could be possible, but yeah, that's a logic gap if that's the case, because he didn't need to show up. He could just have the element of surprise. But then again, he did say, "Do not let them know I'm here." I did wonder about this. Would Kuma make it in time, even though if he didn't have his faculties about him? Because it seems like by the end of this chapter, he's like reacting on impulse alone, or at least on instinct. So Bonnie's like, even if it kills me, I'm going to kill you. So she uses Distorted Future, or at least tries to use Distorted, but before she can unleash the attack, Saturn finds a way to neutralize it. So Bonnie reverts back to normal, and we come to find out that Saturn did a lot of messed up stuff here. Now, I mentioned Saturn has a major involvement in what happened to Kuma, but apparently to Ginny as well. So Saturn says, "You are his daughter after all. Of course you would know about that name. But apparently you don't know what that is exactly." So Bonnie's abilities work on imagination or creativity. Apparently, whatever she imagines, she's able to allow her body to do. That seems to be how Toshi no Mi abilities work. I also think it's a possibility that it could have something to do with these cells, or the stem cell transplant that planted in Bonnie to save her life. So that also is what cured her. I want to keep that in mind. Now, what's interesting about this, when Saturn continues even further, the white form of Nika from Straw Hat doesn't seem to have connected to her internally yet. So I'll get back to that quote later, because that quote just sealed it for me. So we also see Atlas, and Luffy is asking for food, and Atlas is like, if I was able to, I would. But you also have Kizaru thinking about Bonney and Sentomaru, which is weird. And while Saturn's having his inner monologue, Luffy is somehow munching on a bunch of food and filling himself up. So and then some of the Marines are like, "Oh, let's get some sea stone handcuffs to lock him up." So I feel like that's going to be a factor here. I kind of want to know how he got that food, but either way, and again, you notice the Marines and Kizaru are looking on very closely. The Bonney mentions that she can't manipulate her age on the clutches of this guy. So to me, it's like Saturn and the Gorosei has some type of influence on the devil fruits. His explanation mirrors why we haven't seen the design of Bonnie's age fruit, and why it wasn't revealed in the flashback. Oda give us exposition, because that was something wait, how the hell did a little girl like that how did a devil fruit like that end up with a little girl? Saturn is the one that fed, or at least the elements of the devil fruit was fed to. We conducted an experiment on a certain baby where we gave them the skills of a devil fruit without making them eat it directly. without actually eating the whole devil fruit whole, she was able to gain the abilities, which kind of adds up because of the Zephyrum that have the the abilities of other devil fruit users. Like for instance, we saw the Zephyrum version of Jinbei using Senor Pink's devil fruit without actually eating the devil fruit themselves, so that was tying with what we see here with Bonney and the explanation that Saturn gives. This is the biggest reveal of the chapter by far, and I'll get to why that is by the end, but Saturn is the root of all evil that caused Bonney Kuma so much distress, and what we find out, it was also Saturn that experimented on Ginny after she became the 8th Lady of the Holy Land, which Celestial Dragon wanted to marry her, but I do think it's interesting that she was chosen for a specific reason, and we still don't have that reason. Like this wasn't just a random occurrence. That's a big part of Bonney now, because she's seen the memories, she knows about her mother. So I think that's another element to add to this. The way his response to Vegapunk and Bonney is like, it's all your fault, and I should understand the feelings of an insect. And there's a lot of speculation that the Gorosei are not human, or at least were human but lost all traits of humanity, because the way they're talking right now is not one of it that a human being would speak of. So it's obvious that, and the fact that he's like the form of a demon ball and is able to appear with a magic circle or a demonic circle. And speaking of Kuma arrives on Egghead Island finally, and Saturn and Vegapunk are like, whoa, what? Kuma's here? And Saturn's like, no, it can't be. But Kuma, just a runaway tank, taking all explosions, like cannon fire, is like, and Barney's like, it would be better if I just died. Kind of like a red herring, to like, oh, maybe Barney's gonna die. No. So it becomes a struggle for Kuma just to even get to Barney, but Kuma teleports Barney out of Saturn's clutches like we all expected him to, and then Kuma, in the nick of time, saves Barney by shielding himself from the attack, and it looks like he counters with a look of anger, and you can't blame Kuma at all. So, like I said earlier, he could be react on an emotional impulse or just instinct alone, considering that was mentioned in this chapter, but we all knew this was going to happen eventually. So, in the first chapter of the new year, Oda decides to like not draw out this plot point any longer, and he pulls the trigger, and that's how the chapter ends, with Kuma reuniting with Bonney. Now, is he going to have any faculties about him to recognize Bonney, or, like I said, is he just relying on instinct alone? Either way, Saturn looks very shocked, has a lot more of a shocked expression than when Bonney pulled out that katana. Also to note that Kuma looks like he's using arm and haki, because at one point you see his arm darkening, and in another you clearly see it in a bigger panel like his hands normal. So that's interesting if that's the case. And Saturn has this look, oh shit, this is gonna hurt. So that's how the chapter ends. She was obviously sad, but the fact is she actually got over it, and the object of her anger was directed on Saturn. Now, we don't know what's going to happen with Saturn following this situation. Like, is Kuma going to die? Possibly. Is Dragon going to show up? Possibly. There's another factor to take into consideration here, and it involves Kizaru. That's the wild card to me, because not once but twice. Well, the first time he was shown thinking about Santamara and Bonney, and I'm like, that's weird. This is the same person that said, we're just cogs in the Marine, we're just cogs in the machine. And I said, the moment he said that, the moment Oda revealed that, I said, that line of thinking is going to change. It's going to change anyway, because the future of the Marines is going to be with Kobe. Like, that's going to be where the future lies for the Marines. And Garp literally sacrificed himself for that very reason. So, not to mention that I thought it was interesting that Oda decided to include Kizaru in the interactions of Vegapunk, Kuma, Bonney, Sentamara, and Kizaru. And I thought, that's weird. So this would add up. If he actually does something to help out Bonney, now we know why. The thing that seals it for me, as far as like Bonney and Luffy teaming up post Egghead Island, like it could lead into the finale. They could team up to take out Saturn. In fact, that would make the most sense, but we don't know what's going to happen with Saturn. So if by chance they both leave Egghead Island and Saturn survives, there's going to be a mutual hatred for Bonney to like get even with Saturn post this arc. So that's just one element to take into consideration here. If by some chance the Saturn does fall on Egghead Island, then Bonney has to have something to do with it. So maybe she, and it looks like Luffy, because of the way the situation is turning itself out. It's like, on one hand, you got Saturn talking to Bonney about her devil fruit and the reason why she had, or at least the elements of the devil fruit that was experimented on her. In the same scene, you literally have Luffy trying to regain his strength by eating. Another factor to take into consideration here, everything that Saturn mentioned, that when Vegapunk was like yelling in response, like, this, you're the one that forced the disease on Ginny and Bonney. The fact that the Straw Hats overheard that, at least Saji overheard that, maybe Luffy to some extent, I was wondering about this, if that would have a factor in this. Not to mention, Kuma is the same person that sacrificed himself to protect the Sunny. So, if that doesn't scream a mutual bond, I don't know what does. Saturn is talking about, oh, your abilities, you're his daughter after all, but you don't know exactly what that is. The white form of Nika from Straw Hat doesn't seem to have connected to her internally yet. And remember, he's not speaking out loud, so the fact that he says that and Bonney has no idea, that just seals it for me. Because it's like, why have that comment in if it's not gonna factor into anything? It's not gonna be like the sword that had no effect on Saturn when the moment Bonney pulled that out. Like, no. You're talking about Songon Nika here, which was crucial in this flashback to begin with. In fact, quote of "Will Songon Nika free me?" which is what started the flashback to begin with the conversation between Kuma and Bonney in the past, was what triggered the Kuma flashback, and what we found out is Bonney saw the memories. But here's the thing. Okay, just because she saw the memories, how far did that go, by the way? Does she, like, was she able to understand what her father was thinking in certain critical moments in his life? Is that how that works? Because even if that's not the case, even if that is the case, the thing is that, yeah, this is leading towards a team up because the influence of Songon Nika through Luffy hasn't connected to her internally yet. There's a hidden element there with Bonney's abilities that has to be explored down the line. So it's either going to happen on this island, and Egghead Island involving Saturn, or it's going to happen post this island. And possibly she's going to join up, which I've been saying, she's going to ally, not join the Straw Hats for people who don't understand what I'm saying. She's going to ally with Luffy alongside the Straw Hats post Egghead Island, which would lead her to assume the role that Law had before he separate from Luffy post Wano. She's going to have the role that Law had. I said that from jump. So that doesn't mean she has to join the Straw Hats. Like, she doesn't have a crew. She doesn't have a ship. How's she going to leave Egghead Island? She's not dying. Clearly, she's not after this chapter. And after this statement, she has to be aware of the abilities of Nika and the fact that every single time that elements point to Songon Nika being Luffy, Bonney is not around to see it. She wasn't there to see the fight with Kizaru. So when that happens, does it happen on Egghead Island or does it happen on Elbaf? People that have doubts or don't understand where I'm coming from here, that's why I'm thinking this is going. Like, Bonney and Luffy are teaming up to take down either Saturn or the world government, or possibly the Celestial Dragon that forced Bonney's mother to marry him. Again, another quote that Oda just happened to throw in there by coincidence. Like, no, there's more about Ginny that has to be explained. So the more Bonnie's going to be sticking around, because that's a bit, I don't know, that's a big part of her character, don't you think? So in addition to, I personally feel like Bonnie's, like I said, if Bonnie's abilities haven't awakened already, they're about to. And it's going to evolve Luffy to some extent with Gear 5th. It's either going to lead to a team up to take down Saturn, or they're going to find a way to escape via help from Kuma. What he does post here, I don't know. Like I said, we got to the point where Kuma's arrived in the nick of time to save Bonney. We all knew this was happening. So the fact that he's here now where do we go? It could lead to the unexpected, that huge incident that Oda alluded to before Oda went off world building and went into the Reverie flashback. So keep that in mind. So there's going to be a major incident that's going to shake the foundation of the One Piece world forever following this battle, or at the conclusion of this battle. We can still have a group from the Blackbeard Pirates on a ship that's lurking by. So I wonder if that's going to play a factor here. And the fact that we saw Dragon in present time talking about Kuma's actions, and yeah, I definitely see Dragon doing something. When he gets here, I don't know. That's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like the review if you did it, thumbs up. I appreciate that. I appreciate all you guys' support. Thank you for the support on these One Piece reviews. Hopefully that support grows as we enter a new year and possibly the year of Elbaf. Subscribe to for more One Piece. Catch you guys later. Thanks guys. Bye.